Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be painting the Steam Tank with Commander for the Age of Sigmar, Cities of Sigmar army. And we're going to start things off by doing a layer of clay on the base and then using a texture roller to add some texture, and then once it's dry, base coat everything in Wraithbone. Once the base coat is dry, we're going to use some Agrax Dunes. This is going to be used to give just a quick underlayer to the texture on the base. Now the focus of this is to kind of make sure it gets into all the lower reaches and kind of all the crevices. So now we're going to use some Basilicanum Gray, and this is going to focus more on the higher areas of the model to ensure that we have kind of a two-tone definition. Now we also want this to get into the lower reaches of the model because we're going to be doing some dry brushing later. And while we're using the Basilicanum Gray, we can go ahead and use that to do a base coat of the armored sections of the front half of the tank. Now this is going to be used to do the lower reach as well as the upper turret here. But we're not going to use it on the back section. That is going to be done in different colors to denote the kind of steam engine for the tank. While that's drying, we're going to use some gray from the Artist Loft brand of paints to do a quick dry brushing of the base. Now we're going to use some Wyldwood, and we have quite a few little wooden paneled sections on this model, so we're just going to touch all of them. So we've got this kind of upper deck, this barrel right behind the little turret, and then the wood sections of the steam boiler on the back. And then I noticed that all of the wheels have these little kind of wooden sections, so I did a quick touch on them as well. While that's drying, we can go ahead and grab some Magos purple. This is going to be used to kind of paint the sleeves on the commander on the turret here. Now we're going to use some Itanden yellow. This is going to be used to paint the kind of deep reaches of this little lantern that hangs off the back. This will give it a nice glow once we do some highlights later. Speaking of highlights, we're going to use some metallic bronze, and this is going to be used to do a lot of the little kind of detail areas and trim sections on the front part of the model. And because most of the time we're looking at the model from above, we're going to pay some special attention to the top sections of these little detail areas and make sure that they have a even proper coating. This way it all looks uniform as we're looking at it from above. Now we're going to use some Parchment from the Artist Loft. This is going to be used to paint all these little kind of banners and ribbons around the model. Now some of these go on a little thin, and I kind of want a good even coating, so we'll do a second coating on some of these areas later. Next we're going to use some Snakebite leather. I could have done this guy's armor in some kind of metallic, but I like the idea of him just kind of wearing leather armor because he's in a tank. You know, the idea that I'm driving armor, why do I need to be wearing heavy armor? Now we're going to use some black Templar. This is going to be used to highlight the edges around the framework of this little lantern. And while we're at it, we can use the Black Templar to do some quick highlights of some areas that are going to be deep, dark reaches. Then we're going to switch over to some Retributor armor, and this is going to be used to paint some of the larger details, such as the shields off the sides of the tank and the main parts of the large wheels. And there's a bunch of these little kind of cross shapes on the upper reaches of the trim here, so we're going to do a quick touch of those, and then we're going to do some quick detail painting on some of the turrets and the guns. And once that's dry, we're going to go back to the parchment and do a second coat and touch up any areas that were missed. Now we're going to grab some Artist Loft copper. I like the kind of color contrast that this gives to the bronze, so we're going to use that to highlight all of these little detail areas kind of in the trim sections. And it's a little hard to see on camera, but painting the little griffins on the wheels in copper gives it a very nice color difference on the wheels. Now we're going to switch back to the metallic bronze, and this is going to be used to paint all of these kind of metal sections on the steam engine. Now we're going to use some Dark Oath flesh. There's not a whole lot of flesh tones on this model, so it's just the face. Then we're going to switch to some silver, and this is going to be used to pick out the details on the shields, as well as a few of the details on the wheels, and then we're going to use it to highlight all of the little rivets on the wheels and the main tank itself. This gives it just a nice little pop of extra color. Now we're going to switch back to some black Templar, and this is going to be used to paint the smokestack off the back of the steam boiler. Now we're going to switch back to the copper, and we're going to use it to do a bunch of little detail work around the model. These are areas that I didn't hit the first time simply because I wasn't quite sure at the time where I wanted all these details and what color I wanted them to be. But after painting some of the other parts of the model, I really liked how the copper stood out against the bronze, so we're using that to paint up a lot of the little details. And a couple of quick final touches with the bronze on the two little areas here that we missed before. Now we're going to go back to the silver, and we're going to paint this little shovel off the side. We're going to do it entirely in silver and then use some washes to kind of give it some grime and dirt look after the fact. And now we're going to finish up the little boiler engine using some copper to pick out the last couple of details. Going back to the Retributor armor, we're going to pick out a couple of details that were missed the first time and finish off any little details that were missed. Now here I tried to make it look like these little points coming off the boiler were steam instead of just kind of little metallic sections. I'm not quite sure how I like it, but we gave it a shot. Now we're going to do a couple of little copper details around the decking here, and that should be it for the copper. Now we're going to paint his kind of facial hair with Griff Charger Orange. Now using some Agrax Earthshade, we're going to do a all-over coat of the base of the model. This is going to help highlight the details and kind of blend the dry brushing with the other two paints that we've already used. And while we're at it, I really like the way the Agrax Earthshade looks on the Wyldwood, so we're going to paint all the wood sections with the Earthshade as well. Now we're going to switch over to some Null Oil, and this is going to be used on all of the metallic sections of the model, but we're going to do our best not to touch any of the other areas. This will help darken the crevices and any of the areas that kind of have similar looking paints. This will help to differentiate them since we'll have a defined shadow around the area. Now we're going to use a couple of quick touches of Blood Angel's Red just to paint the wax seals on a couple of the banners. And then follow it up with a little bit more Magos Purple, and this is going to be used just to kind of paint the accent ribbons on the sides. And then we're going to follow that up by using the Agrax Earthshade just to give those banners and ribbons a little bit of an earthy tone to them. And here we are with the finished piece. Alright, this was a very interesting model to paint, had a lot more detail than I had originally thought. It took me about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So thank you everyone for watching. Please hit that like button, subscribe for future content, comment in the comments section, let me know how I'm doing. I will respond to all comments, and we will see you next episode.